Well, as Divya mentioned there, the legislation that was repealed in India today dates back to the British colonial era. The law, officially known as Section 377, still applies in one form or another in several countries, including Malaysia, Myanmar and Singapore. So what could today's decision mean for people beyond India? Let's talk now to Dr. Lynette Chua. She's a professor of law at the National University of Singapore, and Lynette has written extensively on gay rights movements in Southeast Asia. Lynette, thank you for joining us here on Impact. Obviously a big day in India, but do you think it could have make a difference in states including Singapore?
I think that the difference or the impact is not going to be direct because each country, Myanmar, Malaysia, and Singapore, even though they are all former British colonies, have developed politically and culturally differently. But I think in terms of impact for activists, it might be a boost to know that a major jurisdiction in Asia with a shared colonial penal history or legal history has struck down this law. But laws and social change always need people on the ground to continue the effort to go through the legislature, petition the legislature, or to go through the courts to have the law struck down. So I think it will have an impact, but in a more indirect, long-term sense for campaigners, for activists.
Let me pick up on one of the states. We've talked on Impact this week about Malaysia, where two women were sentenced, as you know, to caning for trying to have sex. And the Prime Minister has said today in a tweet that that just doesn't reflect Islam. This shouldn't have happened.
Yes. Well, in Malaysia, there is an added layer of complexity because it's a federation, and then there are states like Terengganu where they have state laws and Sharia laws governing the Muslim population, and then there is the penal code that governs the overall population. So for legal change to happen, it could take place at the state level, or it can take place at the federal or the nationwide level. And so the Prime Minister's statement is encouraging, but that doesn't mean that laws are going to change automatically. It will still require activists, as I mentioned, on the ground, whether it's at the state level or at the national level, to go through to work with the legislature or challenge the constitutionality of these laws, as the Indian activists did in their own courts.
Where do you see most public appetite for a change, for these kind of laws to be overturned?
I think, again, Myanmar, Malaysia, and Singapore are very different. But I think overall, at least from what I know about Myanmar and Singapore based on my research, the government is going to say that there is a sense of lack of public support for the repeal of these laws. And so you're not likely going to see widespread the public saying, oh, great, let's have this law removed. Obviously, for activists, this is a welcome move from India, and they might be able to leverage on that in a way to build community support and to build energy within their campaigns to mobilize at their national level.
Lynette Chua, you're a professor in Singapore at the National University of Singapore. Is the ruling in India a big story where you are today?
It's a big story for the people that I know who are working in LGBT groups in Singapore. Yes, it's my Facebook is on fire today. People sharing and repeating the stories, the news reports coming out of India.
Lynette Chua, thank you for giving us some of your time on what is obviously a very busy day. Thank you.
Thank you.